a lot of times when a camera is not performing the way you expect, it's usually user error, right? You know, no matter what kind of photography it is, if your pictures or your video is not coming out the way you expected, you really normally cannot blame the camera. So that's what I'm going to do today, is I'm going to try and minimize all of the variables, apply some of the suggestions you guys made, and see if I can get the continuous autofocus with face detect to work properly this time. So we'll go into initialize settings, initialize all settings, click yes, and now we should be at, you know, the full factory defaults more or less, except time and date and a couple other small things. Now I already have the camera in movie mode, so I just have to go into the super control panel and start making changes here. So we'll go into full manual. I'm going to set my aperture to f2.8, lock my ISO in at 200, and I'm going to check my EV meter. I'm just a little bit overexposed, which is okay, about 1/3 of a stop, so I'll leave the shutter at 1/250th. Now let's go into the focusing and select all target points, and we're going to use natural color profile. All I'm going to do is change the gradation to auto. I just like the look of that better. And we'll leave this in continuous autofocus. But we're going to turn on face detect only, because that's only what's available on the M1 Mark III in video mode. All right, and we will turn off image stabilization. And for movie mode, we'll just start out with Cinema 4K, and we will change it to why does it keep jumping out like that? Info. We're going to change this to 24p so we can match the M1 Mark III. And I'll do separate testing at 60p with the OM-1 like I did the other day. Now I'm going to duplicate these exact settings on the EM1 Mark III. Alright, so I've moved the cameras over to the same spot and adjusted the exposure. But let's go ahead and start walking in and out of frame, doing the normal autofocusing test. I can see that the white box is on me okay. And if I hadn't mentioned it before, if you see me limping a little bit, is I tore one of my tendons when I was doing the autofocusing test yesterday when I was running back and forth. I can't believe it. Man, just getting old sucks, right? All right. How are we holding up? Now let's make it really hard, because sometimes hat can mess up face detect, but usually sunglasses really mess it up, and it has a real hard time doing face detect when you wear sunglasses. But let's see. I'm out of frame, I think. I'll come back into the frame. How are we holding up? All right. And if I take the hat off. All right, very good. Let's try another setting. All right, this time I'm going to turn eye detect on the OM1. It's not available right now on the EM1. So change that to eye detect. And again, there is left eye, right eye, but I'm just going to use eye detect only. All right, now I have the face detect with eye detect, and wow, look at that. I have a little box right around my eye. That's pretty cool. So let's dive out of the frame, come back in. Looking good so far. I come out of the frame and come back in at a different focal plane, then walk back into the same focal plane. It's looking pretty good. Now, one of the things I'm also going to do is, someone had recommended that I set the CAF sensitivity and speed to +1 on both. And so I'm going to try that. But let's try with the sunglasses. I guarantee eye detect's going to fall off. Watch. Yeah. I'm not even getting face detect now. But how's the autofocus doing? Okay, another thing someone recommended was try setting the CAF settings for sensitivity and speed to +1 each. So we'll go ahead and do that now and see what difference that makes. All right, so I left the eye detect on the OM-1, but I do have the CAF sensitivity and speed set to +1 on both cameras. So let's see how we do here. We'll come down and come up. And what you want to look for is how quickly is the camera focusing now to the tree behind me when I go out of the frame and then come back into the frame. And setting the CAF sensitivity to +1 is ideal for recording things that move very quickly to and from the camera. That way the focus will keep up, ideally, right? Assuming the autofocus is working at all. I just want to interject here because maybe some of you noticed that the clips are very short, and I'm not trying to hide anything. Basically, the continuous autofocus with face detect worked perfectly fine for the 4 to 5 minutes that I did each clip. And in total, I did about 20 clips. So I didn't want to create like a 1 or 2 hour video. I'm just going to show you the highlights from each clip, and then we'll do a summary at the end. So let's continue. And wow, the eye detect is still there, isn't it? I wonder how the EM1 is doing right now, because I put the 12 to 40 Pro on it, and some people had suggested that maybe my lens is messed up, because like I was saying, if you guys have been following me a long time, you know that I left my lens out in the snow and ice, and it got filled up. It got filled up with ice. And I had to let it set in my house for a month to make sure it was completely dry. And then it seems to be working fine ever since. All right, so that's a good test, I think, with the CAF speed sensitivity. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the cameras into OM log 400. Now that's the color profile I was using in the last video where the autofocus was really bad. And 2 or 3 of you had mentioned that possibly could be the reason that the autofocus is not optimized for that very low contrast type of recording. So let's go ahead and set both cameras to OM log 400, and we're going to stay in 4K or Cinema 4K 24p. All right, now I have both cameras set to OM log 400, and we'll see how the autofocusing is. So let's take off my hat first. I mean, of all the settings that might affect it, I thought this would probably be the one, because it is a lower contrast, and on one hand, right, lower contrast makes focusing more difficult, whether it's phase or contrast detect. And the other, how's it keeping up here? What if I go around the tree? Is it getting me? Wow, all right, good. Let's try with the sunglasses. Okay, I see face detect, but I don't see an eyeball. And I still have CAF sensitivity and speed set to +1. All right, so one last test. I'm going to go into my app and load all of the settings that I had from that day into the OM1, and see if if there was some setting from that day that was affecting the performance. Now I'm using the settings I had from the other day. Cinema 4K, well, you can see a lot of the icons on the screen there. You can look at those, but they should be pretty much exactly the same, except maybe the exposure, which I adjusted slightly just now. But how's it holding up? It looks like it's pretty awesome today, but I don't know. All right, let's walk around the tree. I may have pulled more than one tendon because the ankle kind of hurts in different places depending which way I twist it. All right, like I said, I'll power through. All right, let's try. Let's try with the sunglasses. Those red-winged blackbirds are going nuts. How's that? I mean, I can forgive the camera if it has trouble focusing with hats and sunglasses on. I'm not going to give it a hard time. There is actually one more setting I need to try. All right, now I have CAF plus tracking and face detect on both cameras set. We're in Cinema 4K OM log 400, but I'm at 60p H.265 10-bit on the OM-1, and I'm on 8-bit, C4K OM 400. All right, anyway, I'm sure the EM1's doing fine because it always has. Like I said, I've been using that camera for the last couple of years for all of my work. And tracking, as expected, is a total train wreck. I've never found it reliable for anything. I mean, if you're moving very slowly, sometimes, see, like it detected my face and now it's tracking my face. And if you're moving like this, you'll be okay. But if you do any kind of erratic movements, I seriously doubt it's keeping up. See, now, like, it's not finding my face. It's locked onto this over here. But if I move my face into it like that, it catches it. But it's not gonna stick, especially if I turn around. So as you can see, the continuous autofocus with face detect and eye detect was working perfectly fine, and I was not able to duplicate the problem I was having the other day. Now, if we look at the video testing I did the other day where I was having problems, the only thing I can see here is that the leaves on the tree over here are very, very contrasty and very well lit, as opposed to my face, which has less contrast and is not lit as well. And even though we have the face detect box in here, it seems like the camera wanted to grab onto the brightest contrasty thing in the frame, which, it shouldn't do, right? It needs to lock onto my face when it sees it. So it's been cloudy the last few days, and it's going to be cloudy the next few days with rain. So I'm not able to duplicate this exact scene until the weather clears up, but I will do that and report back to you. Now, my confidence in the continuous autofocus face detect is much, much higher now. I was a little concerned from the previous video, and I still have a little bit of concern, but right now it seems to be just fine. I'm not sure if it was because I reset the camera, which may have had some setting in the background that was affecting it, but I can't figure out what it is. Because I did reload all of the settings from that previous day, because after the test failed the other day, I saved the camera settings into my phone app so that I could duplicate this particular issue, and I just was not able to, even using the same exact settings from that previous test. Again, the only difference being is the lighting and the things I pointed out. But anyhow, I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you like this kind of testing and analysis. If so, consider subscribing, maybe hit the like button. If you'd like to support the channel, I have my links down below. But either way, I appreciate you watching, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.